Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Inside the Birdhouse from Bluebird Branding, the series where we spark conversations with our team to give you bite-sized insights into the world of branding. Join us as we take you behind the scenes and give you a fresh perspective on what makes brands truly fly. Today I'm speaking with Chief Creative Officer Karl Peters. Welcome to the conversation. Hi Karl, how are you?
Good, Elle. How are you? Good morning.
Very well, thanks. Good morning to you. Do you want to share a little bit about who you are and what you do at Bluebird?
Sure. My name's Karl Peters. I am a Chief Creative Officer at Bluebird Branding, also an owner. And Bluebird Branding is a strategic branding, design, and digital marketing firm in Littleton, Colorado.
And I'm Elle Rushby, the brand manager and marketing specialist at Bluebird Branding. Let's get into it. You wanted to talk today about color theory. When we think about color theory in branding, we'll get into the psychology of things a little bit later on in the video. How does color make or break a brand? Is it really that important?
It's a good question. So, in my opinion, and I have been doing this for almost 30 years, so it's been a while. Color is important, mainly because it's an immediate flag. It's an immediate recognizable thing. I'm wearing a blue shirt. I have a blue wall. The company name is Bluebird. All those things add value when you start to use them consistently and when you start to use that as your flag. So color has that ability, along with some other elements in the visual world. But can it make or break a brand? It can if you're inconsistent, if you don't put a stake in the ground in regards to who you want to be and what your color is. And there are companies that actually use multiple colors. I think there are a lot of campaigns out there where they can use multiple colors, but for most part, the UPSs and the Cokes and the Bluebirds of the world, we choose to live in a palette. And we do that consistently so that when we put our messaging and our work out in the world, that is a flag people can recognize with us and with that company. So it is important. It's an immediate recognition thing. It's just the first thing that can stop you. The first thing.
It's fundamental to brand identity, look and feel, brand strategy, all those things. Color and messaging, what you say and what you look like, those are the fundamentals of look and feel when it comes to brand identity. Would you agree?
Agreed. I think people can call you out when you're misaligned. If you wanted to say you're a trustworthy company or you're first class or you represent a high quality, you wouldn't want to use a color that goes reverse of that or counter to that, right? People associate those things. So blue ribbons and gold stars, those are things that represent quality and trust. And it's probably also one of the reasons in corporate America, blue is that sort of safe color, right? Because it represents a lot of the qualities that most companies want to express out into the world. So I think people can call a misaligned, if we saw a yellow ribbon versus a pink ribbon versus a purple ribbon out in the world, those things have meaning now, and that's because it's been built up over time. If I was supporting breast cancer awareness in October wearing a yellow ribbon, I'd be called out. Somebody would say something.
Totally agree. And I think it's interesting because when we talk about aligning brand identity, I think if we look at companies that have that so established because they've been established themselves for so many years, they're a legacy company, say they've been going for 50, 60, upwards to 100 years, they have a concrete brand identity that has been with them throughout. And that again pertains to a brand color. They chose a color palette all those years ago, and in many cases they have run with that and it's transcended throughout the decades. Do you have an example for me, a real world example of where that's been successful and really impactful from a consumer standpoint?
Tiffany's has just been one of those brands that has stood the test of time when it comes to color. They have it established. They're very clean and classic, beautiful photography of their products, but they have that color so recognizable, and you don't even have to have a logo associated with it, just a bag or a box. And that's been around quite a long time. So I think that's a good example. Do you have Tiffany's there, by the way?
Of course we do.
Okay.
I have a Tiffany necklace. I'm not wearing it right now, but yes, the Tiffany blue is the perfect example. And another example, Cadbury. Cadbury. That was born in Bourneville near Birmingham in the United Kingdom over 100 years ago. That purple that they use, it's trademarked first and foremost. And their entire factory, all the fleet is in the purple, and inside the factory, there's purple walls, purple floors. It's like Willy Wonka, but Cadbury.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting how it's not just about the identity of the brand. When you look at a color, it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is and where it came from. But it's also the feeling surrounding that color, and therefore that connection that people make to the brand, how the brand makes them feel.
Right. That feeling's the most important part, because I think brown isn't all that exciting, but UPS has done something with it, and you get a feeling when a brown truck is in front of your house, you're getting something, right? So absolutely, color has that power, and you can own it, and the more you own it and support it and strategically align with it, I think you can take any color and make it your own. A lot of the competitive landscapes that we look at here, we always align and see what other competitors are doing to make sure that, are we bumping shoulders? Are we close to somebody in regards to color? Because we don't want to pull our brown truck up to a job site and have another brown truck that somebody's going to associate with ours, right? So those are things that we're always thinking about. It's a vessel, and you can build a lot of meaning into it if you take the time, if you take the opportunity.
I like that point that you just made. I think that really relates to consumer judgments, the snap judgment, the quick judgment that they make when they see a brand and their brand color. In some research that I did, HubSpot found that 90% of consumers judge a brand purely by its color. You mentioned a little bit about our process there and our approach to something. As creative director and someone who is very, very involved with the brand redevelopment projects that we do, how does that impact your process when working with a partner?
Well, it varies a little bit. So if we're working on an established brand or rebranding or refreshing a brand, color evolution is a little bit different than starting from scratch. Like right now we have clients, I'm thinking 2 clients that we're starting from scratch from. They don't really have anything, and we can look at a competitive landscape to see what's out there. And then we can say, hey, there's some opportunity in these areas of color, and maybe you should consider that. We're emotionally attached to color, right? So it's hard to say, wow, pink is totally available in the construction industry. You should be pink. We look at opportunity, but then we also look at what's right strategically, what's your brand position, and does the color align? When we do something evolutionary, we're aligning to a position or brand position or a strategy or story. So we want to make sure that happens. We usually, not always, usually it's don't throw everything away. What needs to be evolved, what needs to be refreshed. And then is there opportunity to look anew? If that's one of the things that a company's trying to do with a rebrand or some evolution, do they want to look new? Do they have a story to express or tell why they're doing this evolution? I was thinking about a story. This is a health system in Georgia. They had a blue logo, and it had been around a while. We did our competitive landscape. We looked at things that were around in the community, and we came to a place where we said, wow, the opportunity to have green works with your story and your strategy, and it's something that nobody else is really using in the competitive landscape. At the time, there wasn't a lot of this green out there in the healthcare sphere. So we presented some evolutionary story and concepts in front of them, and they did gravitate towards the green. I remember the CEO was asking, do you really think that this green is right for us? Because it's a little, I'm not used to it. I'm a little uncomfortable. And this seems like bigger than evolution. And that's, again, we're emotionally attached to colors, right? The gentleman I was working with at the time, he said, it is right. He went through the strategy that we presented. It's right because of this. Trust us. It'll work if you're committed to it. So we did a whole brand evolution rollout, new ambulances, new signs, your badges, everything got the new color. And I remember getting emails from the marketing director that I was working with on a day-to-day basis during the launch. She would say, people are sending me mail. They're saying how much they hate the color. It's not right. It's not this. It's not us. And I said, it's going to happen. You just changed something that people were very comfortable with. It's going to happen. That happened for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It started to die out. People started to get comfortable with it. The beautiful thing happened. People started to really gravitate to it, almost like a college would their color, right? It became that company's color, that organization's color. And then employees started to call each other out when they weren't using it the right way, when they weren't wearing the right color green. And it became cultural, and it really happened quickly. There was a lot of frustration and hate up in the beginning because something changed. And then it became this beautiful thing. It became their culture, and employees started to call it out. And then they started to name things green. Their newsletter was green ink. Their intranet was green link. And they had a green coffee shop, and they started to really promote it. And it became their flag. And when anybody out in the community saw something green, they thought of that organization. And that went on for 15 years. And then that healthcare system merged with another system. And I remember the marketing director at the time, she said, you want to know what the first question was when we said that this merger was going to happen? The first question was, do we get to keep our green? Because the new company that was merging with them was not green. They weren't worried about payroll or HR or any of the things that you would think people were worried about losing their green. So it started out really rocky. And again, it's because color is emotional. We buy things because we're emotionally attached to the colors or it appeals to us. So think about that from an organization standpoint. This is something I want to wear every day. This is a place I want to come every day. So there's emotion. But when you do something strategically and it aligns with the story in your plan, you have all the foundation you need, and to do things right. Again, whoever presented brown to UPS at some point, they had to fight this battle too, right? I mean, who wants to drive around brown trucks? I'm sure there was conversation about it. I mean, I think you pick a color, you're committed to it, it's strategically right, it'll work out. Consistency is super duper important. And then when you get the culture behind you, it's great. It can be a great, powerful thing. And that's why I think it's so important. It's just one of those immediate things. People can respond to it immediately.
What's fascinating to me about the real world example that you just used there with the healthcare company going from, what was their previous color?
They were blue, safe blue.
Going from a safe blue, which is typically healthcare. NHS in the UK is blue and white, clean, clinical, to a green. That's really quite a change of pace. What struck me most is you saying about the culture. When the culture's on your side, that's when the impact can be fully felt across the board. But you have to get it right for the internal people at that company and for the consumer as well. It's a really fine balance, isn't it? The leadership roles in that company, if they don't like the direction the color choosing process is going in, they're not going to go for it. And then no changes is going to be made when they perhaps need it.
There's a chicken and an egg, I think, that happens with color. A healthcare organization, if the employees kept going down the path where they didn't like it, like they had stated in the beginning, that could have snowballed the whole thing, because patients are walking into this hospital or any of their clinics, and the patients, of course, are going to say, wow, your sign is new. Why are you green? And if that employee at that moment goes, I don't know, I hate the color, all of a sudden that whole exchange that could have potentially been positive could have went the other way. So it's really important to get employees and build the culture quickly. And when I say the employees didn't lock into it in the beginning, I think that it was more the outside perspective that my marketing director contact was getting emails from more people in the community. Like, how could you do this? You changed on us, you changed. That signal of change usually means something like, did you get purchased? Did you merge with somebody already? Why are you doing this? Why are you spending money when you should be spending money on making healthcare better? All those negative questions come in the beginning. So again, I think culture, and if you build it around your employees and say, this green's important, It means energy and vitality and life and growth. And those are everything that this organization is about. That's what we need to project out into the world. And your employees go, yes, I get it. That aligns. I agree. Then that exchange with the person who comes in and goes, why did you change the color? The ambulance that picked me up used to be blue and now is green. Why? Are you wasting money on marketing and branding when you should be putting it into something else? Then they can have that better exchange, a good experience. So again, it is emotional. It's super important that all those things align internally and externally. I think the end all is the best part of the whole story. When people are so committed to something that's the thing they're worried about losing.
Right.
And then you're right. In the beginning, they didn't think about it at all. But in 20 years later, they didn't want to lose their green. Now, I don't know if that's because they didn't want to buy new scrubs or a new wardrobe, or if it became so cultural. It became a flag in that community, because I've been in that community a lot. And if I saw a billboard or a sign or an ambulance or a vehicle driving down the road that was that green, I knew where it was going. I know whose it was. It became that signal. So it has that power. It has that power.
It really does. It's so interesting, all these things like brand identity, linking to color, look and feel, linking to emotion, trust. It's really all about psychology, this industry that we're in, and making sure that we're resonating in the right way to the right people on behalf of our partners, right?
Right. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen it go the other way too. I learned very early on, this was right after school, and I've gone through my color theory and painting all my gouache and all my color studies. And I was in a presentation at my first job for a large corporation, and I was presenting a logo concept to 10 people, and it was aimed for teachers, and it was a specific service that this company was providing. And I built all my story and strategy and align the logo concepts and the colors together. And I presented. Everybody in the room gravitated to one concept, which is what you want. Eventually tweaks, pivots a little here and there, but everybody gravitated to one. But the leader of this initiative at the company stood up, and she said, I agree with everything you said, Karl. I believe in it. I think we're all in agreement that this is the right direction. Your orange logo is very nice. I get the strategy behind it. But she said, I just cannot have an orange logo. And we were all looking, and I was younger at the time, and I was puzzled. And I said, okay, why not? And she goes, well, I'm an Aggie. And
what does that mean?
That defunct it right there. So this is in Texas, and my orange was Texas University Longhorn orange.
Oh, it's bored.
She was a Texas A&M alum. And at first, I thought she's joking with me. But no, she was 100% serious. On an aside, I said, but this has nothing to do with you. Like, this is for this company. This is for this group of people. It has nothing to do with Texas and Texas A&M, but it changed. So I've seen it go both ways. That emotional tie can work the other way too, where you're just so emotionally tied to something that you cannot get over that hump of what it means. So again, that logo had nothing to do with Texas A&M, but the leader of that initiative didn't want it, so we didn't have it.
Oh my goodness. It's as if, Manchester United versus Man City, are you red or are you blue? Honestly, that emotional connectivity to colour isn't just about brands all the time. I suppose technically they are brands, but they're icons of success or sometimes failure if they lose a game, but they're icons that we've grown up with. If you are born into a family that is red, blue, or in this case, orange.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of emotional tie when you go to a university. There's a lot of emotional tie in sports. Oftentimes people say it, like, I bleed this color, right? I told you my daughter's at the University of Knoxville, Tennessee. When you're in a stadium full of 100,000 people wearing Tennessee orange, it's pretty powerful. And if you're not one of those people wearing that orange, you stick out. When they go against one of their biggest rivals, the Alabama Crimson Tide, I mean, that is color versus color. There are lots of organizations, lots and lots of organizations that have color at that level, and they've elevated it to that level of importance culturally and out into the world, right? If you want a soda and you pick a blue can versus a red can, again, you don't even need to see the logo. Most times you know what you're getting. So it has tremendous power, and it's sort of immediate, whereas other things are more nuanced in a visual system. Typography, most people don't see the difference between different sans serifs or different serifs. Most people can see a difference between that sans serif and a serif, but it's a little harder to see. Color is just yellow, purple, boom, immediate.
Totally. You can see it straight away. I have a final question for you, Karl. What advice would you give to a company that's kind of wanting to grow, but also wanting to grow their recognition? What would you say to them in terms of color?
I think my Texas story kind of leads me into this. Geography is super important, like where you are in what part of the world is important, but understanding strategically where you want to go, looking at the landscape. There's got to be some science and some math involved up front, a little bit of due diligence, looking at that landscape and then asking the right questions. And then we can provide opportunities if they exist. Color is hard. It's like buying a domain name these days, right? It's hard to come up with a new name and then make sure there's a domain name. It's hard to come up with a new color that's not already being used out there in the world. There's no such thing as new colors. There's leveraging a color that hasn't been leveraged before, but so that's what we would do. We do the homework, find out what's working, not working with what you're doing, where you want to go strategically, align things from a story standpoint, and then show opportunities. And if that means at that moment that you should just stay the color you are because you have this reputation and this is what's expected of you and it's doing that and it separates you in the world, or hey, there's an opportunity, you can own this color because nobody else in the landscape is doing it. So those are things we would look at. Make sure we have all the information to make a good recommendation before you leverage color. And we do that with everybody from a startup to evolution, refresh. It is one of the things that we can easily plot. You put a color chart together and you go, here they are. You told us you had these 20 competitors that you come up and bump shoulders with frequently. We plotted them. This is the color that they put out into the world. This clearly shows there's opportunity here, or it shows that it's saturated. Everybody owns a color. And again, the Texas story, you have to take those things into consideration, where you are and what part of the country. And if a color has a legacy tie to a university or another organization like Cadbury that's in town, right? I don't know that somebody should come in and sell candy or chocolates and move in close to Cadbury that wants to do purple. Probably won't work.
True. And that, again, you've hit the nail on the head. That's why it's so important to do the work and the due diligence around that, because ultimately, if you don't do that and you move into an area where it's super saturated, and again, talking about color, like you just said, with the competitor analysis, looking at what the competitor's use of color looks like and identifying that gap. If you don't do that, it's just not going to work, is it, Karl? It's just not going to work.
Probably not. I have had a few instances where we've done that work in that landscape, and we said, here's an area of opportunity. And I have had some instances where clients will be like, well, I see that red is really populated. I want to be red because if I'm associated with the companies that are red, that's okay with me. I feel like I can still grow and I can still do what I need to do. And, like Avis from a perspective of brand positioning, where they felt that being second place was okay. I don't think they do that anymore, but there are companies that are okay with being third, fourth, fifth in a category or in an industry. And that's perfectly fine. And if they can ride the coattails of someone else's color and be a little bit either misinterpreted or convolute that person's or that company's color message, that's another avenue. We haven't really gone down that path as much as opportunity and stand out, but it is another area. So again, doing the homework, understanding what that plan is for growth and what they want to do. It can go both ways, but either way, if you're going to tie it, your ship to someone else's ship, or if you want to be your own thing, color does have the ability and the power to do that.
Well, look, some really interesting perspectives on colour there. Who knew that colours had emotional ties, feelings, and strategic implications behind it as well? It's super important. So thank you very much, Karl. Great convo.
Yes, thank you. Good, great conversation. Good questions. Good stuff.